Well, right now we're at the mouth of Salt Run. This is where the Salt Springs discharges into Lake George, which is right here in the background. This is probably a premier Bartram site. It was visited both by John and William Bartram during the 1765-1766 trip that they took together, as well as a return trip by William on several occasions when he came back in 1774. On the initial discovery of this spring by William and John, not that they actually discovered the spring, but the first time they ever encountered it, it was January the 24th in 1766, and they had just been down on the St. Johns River to the Spalding's Upper Store, which is on the other side of Lake George. They had left there and crossed Lake George and camped in pretty close to Silver Glen Springs mouth. Then they proceeded up the coastline here on the west or Indian shore of Lake George, and then here into Salt Run. This would have been their first return to Putnam County, which is just outside the run. This part is actually not in Putnam County, but is still part of our trail. We've adopted it. From here, they proceeded up to Salt Springs, and they did a goodly amount of exploring around the actual spring itself, and cataloged a lot of the flora around the spring, and we're quite impressed with it. In fact, at the time, John Bartram renamed it, or named it initially, William's Spring, after his son, William Bartram. From there, they came back down the run on the same day and proceeded to cross the channel, the south channel or the west channel of the St. Johns River, and to camp on Drayton Island. But this is, like I said, both a John and William Bartram site and a William Bartram site. So William came back to this location in 1774.
Sure did, and some of his most poetic writings were here about this site. In fact, a lot of the Europeans stole his writings about the springs and so forth, and is part of the famous poem of Kubla Khan. This is where he wrote about it and so forth. And he was talking about how the water gushed up out of the limestone here. He'd also talked about the fish life and how the bass would sit there and calmly watch the brim swim right across their nose, and how friendly they were to each other and so forth. And it was really remarkable. He also caught a lot of fish here, and on the night that William was camping here, he and his buddy hung their fish over their knapsacks, and wolves came in and stole their fish over William's knapsack, which is he writes about in his book. In addition to that, in documenting the plants and all, this is where he discovered the star anise plant. And so the anise trees are up and down this run and so forth still to this day, and obviously their exporting of those seeds became hugely popular in India and Europe. And this is where it all started. Licorice started here in Salt Springs Run. It's amazing. Also, you need to know that at the springs is actually run and operated by the National Park Service. There's a really nice park there, and if you're looking on a map, you're looking for Salt Springs, and there at Salt Springs is a nice national park, and with access to the springs and the boil and all of that. It's a popular fishing spot 7 miles from the lake to the boil. And the Bartrams knew this run, a 7-mile run. That's what they knew it is. But now it's called Salt Springs Run, and good for fishing. And
it's definitely a favorite kayaking destination for people who live in and around Putnam County.
Yeah. If you see how narrow the run is here, it even narrows down further at the end of this stretch right here. And then all of a sudden you think there's no way that this can go for 7 miles back in here, because it's barely 20 feet wide at the narrowest point. And then all of a sudden it opens up into a 1/4 mile wide run. And just a beautiful prairie type thing with the plants and so forth. It's gorgeous. And it's exactly the way that Bartram left it.
The water hyacinth.
Yeah, this is the water hyacinth.
The dreaded water hyacinth.
Right. Now, when the Bartrams were here the first time, they had problems getting to the boil because it was clogged. And it was very easy to see how that could be when you hit these prairies up here, because it's very slow-moving water and it's very wide. So if it was not the water lettuce that impeded them. They also talk about the orange groves that were still all along both shores of this run. So really a neat spot. But if you want to kayak, this is one of the best places to do it.